Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Of course, this is TFT Tinfoil Talking. Today, we are doing the King, the Big Daddy, Flat Earth. Are you guys ready? Are you ready for this? Because you better buckle up. Because I would argue, and I don't know that many would argue against me, that there is no conspiracy theory bigger than Flat Earth, nor does it cause more consternation. And we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Earth is flat like a pizza, Jennifer says. You're exactly right. Bullet also says turtles are all the way down. That's right. That's right. We got to remember the turtles. But of course, that's just representing the foundation. But don't get me ahead of myself. I'll get there. We also have Josh the Pope Crow. I think I liked it better when it was Josh the Pope Yo. That's all right. I'll take it. And Abel Pearson is also in here. Hey, you doing? Now we got a lot to get to today, guys. We got a nice group in here with us, and of course, who knows, will show up by the end. By the end here, but do keep in mind we have all our links down below. And check those out for us, please. Particularly FanSpeak. We'd love for you guys to go over there and be part of the Facebook group. It's growing. It's a lot of people are very involved with it. That's what makes me most happy about it. But please go be part of that. But more importantly, because this is a live stream, hit that share button, please, and let your family and friends and extended community know what's going on so they can come join the fun here live. But before we start jumping into this, I do want to come over and say hello to the panel we have with us today. I do see that we have the donut Earth theory. That's a very nice one. I like that one, Tolfer. I also like the one. I didn't really get into it today because there's too much to talk about, but I love that guy who was telling the world that he's Jesus returned, and he's talking about us being in the Hollow Earth. I thought that was pretty cool too. There are a lot of theories, and of course, do keep in mind with TFT, we're just having ourselves a bit of fun. We don't want to take it too seriously. We're just having a good time with it, and of course, Flat Earth is a great romp, dude. And Eric says, I'm driving home for the show, so keep me entertained. I shall, sir. I shall. So let me come over here and say hello to our panel today. And we got a new face in here with us. Of course, we've seen him before, but first time on TFT, I think. Model, is this your first time here?
I was on the very first episode.
Oh, you were. Oh, okay. So well, it's been a while, dude. Well, glad to have you back, and glad that we had a topic that perked your interest.
Yeah, I love this one. This is a good one.
It is a good one, dude. So how you been doing, man?
Been doing great.
All
Doing
right,
very
now.
well.
Now, have you prepared the presentations for us today, or are you just going to be part of the peanut gallery?
Well, I've not prepared a presentation, but this is one that I started following as soon as, I'd say about 5 years now it's been going on.
Hmm.
And as soon as it started becoming popular, I started paying close attention to it because of some other thoughts I've had throughout the years that most people find equally as wacky, but we can get into those as well.
No, please. That'll be a lot of
Because
fun.
they do apply. They do apply.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about this particular conspiracy theory. It's scary to people, and you and I were talking about that earlier. It's scary because it shakes the foundation of everything they believe, and and it's very well argued theory. I mean, there are some crazy ones out there that are obviously nonsense, but this one's tough, dude. And I tell you what, there are a lot, and mark me as I say it again, a lot of celebrities and people who believe in the flat Earth. It's no joke, man. It's no joke. And I
Mm.
know there's a bunch of weirdos out there in celebrity land, like Gwyneth Paltrow, and she's a witch. She believes in stone magic, and we should do that one day. But yeah, this is a popular one. But thanks for being on, model, and feel free to jump in at any time and give your opinion. All right. But
Absolutely.
all right, now Todd is not a believer. Todd is obstinate. Todd,
Yeah,
why don't you believe in the flat Earth? Why can't you believe the truth when it's in front of you, sir?
well, because wouldn't we see some celestial body out there besides our own if there was such a thing as a flat a flat whatever disk
Mhm,
in
mhm,
space?
mhm.
Wouldn't we see another one?
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
show me another planet which we can see that looks like a planet anyway. They're all just
we
twinkling lights, even Mars or Jupiter. They don't look like they show you in those paintings on TV. you ever look through a telescope, they don't look anything like that.
Okay.
It's okay. It's kind of almost as if you're looking through water. No, it's too early. I have to pull it back. So you just keep an open mind, Todd. That's all I ask. All right. But anyway, how you doing today, dude?
I'm doing good. Today's part of Todd will be played by George, and I will play George today.
All right. All right. All right. That sounds fun. Well, hello, George. How you doing, dude?
I'll take that challenge. I'm doing great. I'm going to bring my A game to this show. The
Sweet.
power of Carl Sagan. If you guys can't even hold a candle to that, then what's the point of doing the rest of the show
Well,
after my video presentation?
Well, George, after I do my introduction thing, I'm probably going to start with you. So get ready.
Oh, I'm ready. Oh, I'm ready, sir.
Rock on. All right,
2 minutes.
George.
Solid Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan. He's the savior of all. That's right. Or he's a government shill. Either way. But the Dinale Lama is with us. Praise be to the creators of the
Namaste.
dome. Hello. Namaste.
Yeah,
So how you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. It's hot here as well. So we're sharing weather apparently, Chester.
Oh, dude.
because
Yeah, it's a hot day, but see, the problem was my air conditioner is really old. It's like
Mhm.
17 years old, and it's weird because I've replaced everything in my house like twice during that period, but that thing kept going. But every now and then it gets clogged, and you literally have to go to like the outlet tube, and you have to put some air compression in there to kind of clean it out. But it wasn't working, so I was kind of trying to bend it in a better position to get more air pressure into it, and I popped the copper wire seal, dude.
oh
Yeah,
no, man,
yeah, not good. But I mean,
not, not
I could repair it, or just goes. It cost me about $200 to repair it, or like $400 to replace it. So I was like, all right, new one.
yeah. That's how
Yeah,
I was gonna say. You're gonna have to buy a new one on that
yeah,
one.
I just get a new one.
Um,
But this thing
yeah,
has lasted me a long time though. But yes, I am sitting in a sauna, and I have coffee too. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Yeah.
this is where you need a refreshing drink, not like coffee,
Well, oh
maybe
well.
tea.
Like I said,
Yeah,
you get old and stubborn is what happens, Denali. It's old and stubborn.
yeah, yes. We all get there eventually.
Bill
Well, it
from
was
Art.
in the 90s here today, and I just saw from Kat. Everybody knows Kat, that
Hey,
it is snowing where she is at.
oh well, she's in
Oh,
Canada. But I haven't spoken to Kat in a long time. Dude, send her back over here. I haven't talked to her in a long time. I'd love to talk Kat again. We love Kat. Where'd she go to?
She's around.
Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like to
Went to
talk to her.
she's
Canada.
around.
So, but let's see here. Bill from Argos Creation says the Japanese make shoddy ACs. To hell with you, sir. 17 years is pretty good. What kind of electronic device do you have that lasts that long these days? The funny thing about that, before we get into it, this is the more conspiracy theories I'm layering on for future shows, I guess. But when I was
Hmm.
young, I was real young, right? I don't know, 15 or something like that. I was making really good money with music from a very young age. And I had a whole bunch of, I don't know if you guys did this. I think a lot of people do. When you get your first paycheck, especially if you have some a good bit of money, you want to buy your parents something, right? And I was just the same as everybody else. And I went out and I bought my parents a big, at the time, this is back in the in 1985 or something like that. I bought my parents
Hmm.
this big, huge, gigantic, 1,000-pound RCA TV, right? I know you guys remember RCA. They used to be a thing. But big, giant thing. I mean, with the,
Showing your age there.
yeah, well, no, I bought that RCA TV and it was
Does it have the
beautiful.
wood cabinet?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
gigantic thing, dude. And
What?
I bought that from my parents, and I was so proud, and
Hmm.
of course they were very happy to have it as well. That thing lasted up until 2017, right? And they
Now it's a
find
TV stand for another TV.
yes, I'm sure they went and bought something new. But the thing with it is though, uh, RCA at that time, what was happening? It's kind of interesting. At that time, RCA was getting hammered by the Japanese stuff coming in. Of course, anybody who remembers the 80s, remember the Japanese were just kicking America's butt and everything, right? And there was a lot of pushback from America at that time, of course. But what RCA did to compete was they started making they went with quality. If we can't beat them with quantity, we're going to beat them with quality. And they put out the best thing they could make, and the best thing they could make was a 30+ year TV. And you find another product these days that works that long because they make them to break, right? Now, some people say that's conspiracy theory. I say nonsense. I mean, the Sony 7-year bug is a thing. I had a Sony TV, and it went out at exactly 7 years, actually.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, they learn easily enough. If you're making product that lasts 20 to 30 years, you're not having repeating customers to buy your new products.
Yes, but there is
We
something insidious about that, Dinale, right?
we had a Zenith TV, wood casing. I mean, the thing looked like art.
Yeah.
And the incredible thing about the Zenith TV, while it was a 20-inch, a very small screen,
Mhm.
it had a built-in telephone with it.
Oh, nice,
Oh,
So you
nice.
plug in your telephone jack to the wall. So when you get a phone call, all of a sudden the audio of the TV is turned off, and you can actually have a speaker conversation with whoever's calling.
Hmm.
And,
Well,
and how long did it last? It was 1977, and we had to put it out to pasture in 2002.
yeah. No, it's fair points, right? I mean, because like another piece of furniture electronics that my parents had was my grandfather. The same year my father was born, 1947, he bought a hi-fi. You guys know what a hi-fi is?
I haven't heard of that in a
Okay.
long time.
Hi-fi is a big old huge long piece of furniture, and it's got like a record player in it, radio. It's got a whole bunch of stuff in it, but it looks like this beautiful counter type of furniture. That thing still works, dude. They're still using that, and that's 70 years old, right? They just didn't. They made things for with pride and quality in the past, and these days they don't. That's a conspiracy theory. I don't know if it's a show by itself, but we probably just covered it. So you get a bonus today.
well,
Uh,
Yep.
Chester, I used to work in manufacturing, and what they call that is manufacturer's obsolescence,
oh, well, there you
and
go.
especially built into phones.
Planned obsolescence. Yeah, absolutely.
Planned obsolescence. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But how about this flat Earth thing?
Yeah, no, we're gonna get back to that. It's just I got off track, but the chat is certainly interested in it because they're all giving their own things. ACs working long time, stations that worked really well. Sure, the original NES they still do work. Right? You still have to blow in the damn things so and whack them twice. But hey, yeah, there's plenty of things from the '50s still going strong. It's true, dude. They used to make things properly, but it is what it is. They would last longer in a flat Earth. I agree, Bill. And with that, I'm going to jump in. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to jump over and get into it, guys. So
All right.
here we go.
Buckle in.
Buckle in. Now, flat Earth is not a new thing, actually. Flat Earth's been around quite a while. Matter of fact, one of the things that people often, look at when the first time they hear about flat Earth is, of course, the map. So this map is a very interesting thing because, it's from the modern, the past 150 years of this flat Earth society and stuff like that. We know that the United Nations uses this map. The actual official map of America through our mapping service is actually this map, even though they don't tell you that. But the thing a lot of people don't know is this map actually is over 1,000 years old. It's not a new thing at all. And this theory and this idea has been around a long time. Now, of course, they will make the comment, earthers themselves, that before Copernicus and his push for the globe, which, of course, not that long ago, in perspectively, this was the general idea. And during Christendom, it was. We have to keep in mind, though, that during the Christian run, they might not have been as violent as the Islam is, although I would say Islam's violence is more honest in a way. But they had their problems and their bad things they did, and one of the things the Catholic Church did was absolutely they did their best to destroy knowledge and understanding. So for 1,200 years, the West was under this archaic dumbing down period, and of course during that time, the flat Earth would have certainly been prevalent. Although in cultures before that, there was the globe concept. Here's another real big problem before I start getting into all the other things in my introduction here. Is if you're a religious person, whether you are Christian or Muslim or Hindi or Buddhist or whatever, in your religion, it tells you that the earth is flat. It's very clear. I know a lot of modern religions have done their best to try to roll with the times. Yeah, no. If you have a King James Bible, you can go read through that, and there are many, many, many references to the earth being flat. It's very clear. So if you're a religious person, you kind of have to believe the Earth is flat, actually, so it makes a lot of sense to me why things kind of reverted back to the pre-Copernicus thinking. But nevertheless, beyond this map here, of course, we have this imagery that's being pushed around a lot with the flat Earth, which is kind of cool, but it kind of also looks like it's been broken off of something. So remember, we're in a post-apocalyptic from a time from a super hyper advanced period where we were saved by aliens. I don't know, maybe. Of course, the flat Earth argument is very, very simple. And here's a little formula for you. Now it's a little bit easier to be broken down than this, but I just thought it would be fun to look at this craziness because this, for me, is the most niggly point about the conspiracy theory that is flat Earth, because you should not be able to see beyond a certain distance on the horizon because it should be beyond the curvature of the earth, right? And this formula is wrong. It's just wrong because there have been many, many people show in many, many cases standing on one beach, being able to see across a long stretch of water and seeing the boats in the harbor and people walking along on the streets, even though they should be 100, 200 feet below the horizon. Right. So this right here is what gives credence to the flat earth. This right here. Right. And this is what you should really be, all the focus should be on is this. Why is this not right? This is the conversation. Now, of course, what people did was they jumped back into that old thinking of, the religious thinking of the earth is flat because that's what your Bible tells you. And I don't blame them for that. Is there another explanation? Sure. How about the earth is much bigger than they tell you it is? Right? And This brings me to another map that has been making the rounds the past few years, which I find fascinating. Look at it. Look at it. It is very interesting, isn't it? We have a
The
map here that
donut
shows
flat.
us. No, is it? I don't think it's a donut. I think it's saying that the Earth is there are many rings of ice and there's many other land masses beyond. Now this is very fascinating, and this is not just pure fantasy, just someone just thought up. There's actually a lot of ancient stories and cosmology that talk about this. Actually, but it has brought us to this kind of thinking here. So instead of it being, of course, they're still presenting this in a flat way. But instead
Mhm.
of being a flat Earth model, maybe it's just bigger. Maybe there's reasons. I don't know. But I do know, 100% know, and this doesn't have anything to do with TFT today, guys. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And then, therefore, we need to understand why this is wrong. I mean, and truthfully, because
Well,
I
in some
know,
cases, Chester, they're seeing things hundreds of miles with
yes,
infrared and lasing. And
yes,
even the Navy gunners will say, we're lasing targets 120 miles away.
yeah, yeah. No, it's ridiculous, right? So, what's going on? Because this is the meat of it right here. And I don't know that this means the earth is flat or not. I mean, but there's something going on and we need to have a serious sit down conversation. Of course, this all started 100 some odd years ago with a doctor. What was his name? Brendan or Braden or something like that. There was this guy who was in England. He's a scientist, and he sat on this. England is just covered by these channels, right? And he sat in his little boat, and he had his friend take his boat, go down with a telescope, and he kept watching him, expecting to literally see him go around the curvature, and he didn't. right? And that's what started this off and got us to where we are. And of course, he created a book called was the Earth is flat, or I can't remember, the Flat Earth book or something like that. He came up with it. This scientist came up with that, and that's what kicked off this modern flat Earth thing. But yeah,
That
this
is
is
the Earth. It's not a globe.
the Earth is not a globe. Thank you very much. See, my
Hmm.
memory is failing me, Denali.
Hmm.
But that is what started this whole stuff, right?
And you're
Uh,
talking about the Bedford level
Thank
experiments.
you. There it is, Bedford. I knew it was
Yeah.
B. Hey, I'm glad I got people here with me. Because I didn't put that in my presentation, but the
Yeah.
Bedford level, the Earth is not a globe. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. No, and I believe he went with it by a really strange name too. Parallax, I think, is what he put out his put that work under. Probably trying to protect his professional name. But anyway, so here's a real issue that goes beyond the whole flat Earth thing itself, because there is a mistake. Now, there's a couple little points I want to make before I turn it over to the board here and get into this. One is, here's some shots of horizons, and of course they are, the steps of Horus. By the way, horizon. Just so you know, it's an ancient Egyptian reference to a god, and the horizons here are dead flat. Now people say, "Wow, the Earth is too big. You can't see it at that space." Well, they keep telling us and showing us imagery from space shuttles and various things with all kind of curvature, right? Oh, sorry, fisheye lens, right? Well, why do they do that? Why do they make sure you can see a curvature when they know right well by their own math you're not high enough to see a curvature? Why do they do that? Well, that starts adding up into the whole conspiracy that is NASA. Right now, we've covered NASA a little bit here, but NASA's a very troublesome thing because they lie all the time. And, we also have things that go beyond that, like with the flight paths here. This is a fair one and a good argument from the flat Earth people. You can't find flights that go directly from Australia to South America. Why not? That's a straight shot. Why don't they do that? And of course, we see all these flight paths. They just go all over the place, even from Africa to over these places. They don't work. But then if you look at the flat Earth model on a flat Earth map, well, actually, they're straight shots. Look at it, right? And this is an interesting argument they have as well, and many more. They talk about Polaris, and they talk about all kind of stuff that if someone wants to get into that, we will talk about it. But there are lots of proofs and evidence that the flat Earth people go on. But I want to give one little bit of troublesome indigestion for you, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
And it has more to do with NASA than necessarily about flat Earth, because NASA says they went to the moon. NASA says they've sent little robots to Mars. But the problem is they keep sending back these pictures, and people have traveled around the world to places like Greenland and things like that, and they found the exact, not almost like, the exact landscape, and they put them side by side. So it's obvious that NASA is taking pictures on Earth and selling them as Mars. Why? What's the point? I mean, if there's something up there you don't want us to see, well, just don't show us that picture, show some other picture. But yet there are literally dozens of pictures that have been proven to have been taken on Earth, and NASA's selling it as being on Mars. Why?
Right.
Why do it? You know? And of course, this comes to this simple little point. Simple little thing, and I do apologize, Todd. I really do, because I'm probably going to talk about something with water later that you're not going to appreciate. But take a look here. This is from the movie Right Stuff. Great movie if you haven't seen it. 3 hours, over 3 hour movie, but fine, fine flick. But look what they're wearing. These are spacesuits, right? And you can go to
Hmm.
find the NASA's official suits and stuff. They're not so different today than they were then. They're supposedly going into a vacuum, right? A vacuum of space. No gravity, whatever gravity is, no air, etc., etc. It's a void. It's a vacuum. Now, if you've ever taken science class, then you know what should happen in a vacuum, just by your simple little science that we have set up, right? If they were in those suits, those things would blow up because of to huge size like a balloon, and these guys would be just kind of rolling around, not able to do anything. But yet they show you plenty of pictures of them walking around space, and these things don't look any different. They're kind of loose, and they have their the wrinkles in them, and they're moving around no problem. But you see, it wouldn't work like that. Science dictates that that doesn't work like that. Now, if NASA has some super ultra secret technology that somehow keeps a vacuum from affecting it, the material and the technology they have, well, boy, I'd like to know that, because that's a seriously cool technology.
Well, do you know who made these spacesuits for Apollo?
Who?
Playtex.
Playtex. Oh, there you go.
They
But I
had the
mean,
contract.
they had the contract. Well, seriously, this is a serious issue, guys. Your basic high school science physics class tells you that there's no way they could be wearing these costumes in space. There's no way. It doesn't work
Those
like that.
actual suits you're looking at, though, those were the flight suits, but not the spacewalking suits.
Even the spacewalking suits, they don't work like that, Todd. They don't work like that. They're flimsy, soft suits. And the funny thing is, if you go back and you look at some of the early stuff from like the 50s and early 60s, the suits they were working on were actually these big, monstrous tank-like things, dude. I mean, you can't even imagine someone moving around in it. And there's just very tough, metallic covered things. And of course, they ended up going this soft suit. And I think in the end,
Very much like the deep sea diving.
yeah, no,
Uh,
that's right.
uh,
Yeah, very good point. But they didn't. They went with a soft suit, and I think what they did in the end was, this is too much trouble. It's too difficult. We can sell these to the population because they're all stupid. No one studies science. And you might laugh at that comment, but I think that is a very applicable truth. I think a lot of these conspiracy theories, particularly flat Earth, relies on the stupidity of the average citizen. Seriously,
Right.
because
Right. And
we don't have to go anywhere beyond this. These suits prove NASA's full of it. And
the
that's
education system has really focused on, for the last 30, 40 years, of reducing critical thinking
yeah,
in the average citizen. People cannot do critical thinking anymore.
true. Well, in
They're not
America,
capable.
that is true. And of course, in the reason they do it in America is because they want Americans to be consumers, right? They wanted to buy stuff, and they don't want to make stuff. They wanted to buy stuff. And of course, this is why there's so much pushback against Donald Trump, because he's trying to turn America back into a producer instead of a consumer. Now, if you come over here to Japan, after the war, what they did basically was instead of running around having soldiers with guns, they put soldiers in suits because they wanted to be productive and economic power. So here, education is paramount because they need to create those tied and suited soldiers, right? So it depends on where you are, actually. But yeah,
and
no, you're absolutely right.
and here's a quote that the Flat Earth Society uses as part of evidence for this conspiracy against flat Earth. This is from George A. Keefworth, science advisor to President Reagan, in a testimony before Congress, March 14, 1985. All government agency lies part of the time, but NASA is the only one I ever encountered that does so routinely.
Wow, that's an
And then,
interesting statement.
yeah, and then this is from Lyndon B. Johnson, Statement on Status of National Defense and Race for Space, January 7, 1958.
Hmm.
Control of space means control of the world. From space, the Master of Infinity would have the power to control the Earth weather, to cause drought and flood, to change tides and raise the levels of the sea, to diverse the Gulf Stream, and change temperature climates to frigid. There is something more important than the ultimate weapon. That's the ultimate position, the position of total control over the Earth that lies somewhere in outer space.
Well, there
So,
you go. And of course, that
so
brings up Operation Fishbowl and
mhm.
all the stuff that was going on with the Russians and the Americans. It's as if they found something and they started throwing nuclear weapons at it, trying to blow something up way up high, like almost like it was a dome or something. Now that's getting deep into the flat Earth, and I was trying to keep my introduction as general as possible because I don't want to take away from anything anybody else might have to say. But yeah, that's
You know what I
interesting,
think,
dude.
though, Chester? I think flat Earth itself, I think, is a distraction,
It might be.
because
Yeah.
it's flat Earth really, and the people that are looking at this that are really serious about it, it's not the Flat Earth Society. Um, what what people are saying is that the Earth appears to be flat, not that it's flat or it has an edge or it's a disc. of any kind. They're not even defining a shape. They're saying that the surface, based on experiments that can be repeated and observed, that it is the Earth, it's not possible for it to be a sphere 25,000 miles in circumference. Now, is it a sphere? It could be. It could be a huge one.
It could be
But
10, 100
what
times
is
bigger.
getting
Yeah.
what is getting proven, though, is that something is off. And what I think that there's a lot going on with this flat Earth. That's not all of it is coming from legitimate sources. Some of it, I think, is definitely being put out there to kind of muddy the waters, because that's not even the important thing. Who cares if it's flat or if it's round? It has no bearing on anyone's life. Most people will never be in any kind of an environment to get off of it or to go anywhere or get high enough to even look at it. So it has no bearing on anyone's life.
And,
Well, actually, it does have bearing in the sense that you change the perceptions of what is reality.
Well, no, and
Because
if I can finish my point,
go ahead. Sorry.
it's being used to obfuscate the actual questions that people should actually be asking about. So, like, if people say, "Well, do you believe in flat Earth?" No, I don't. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me, there's two things. It is scientifically and physically impossible for an atmospheric body to be floating around in a vacuum. It's not possible. And the other thing is that the math that is basically 8 inches per mile squared of drop off. It's just a formula in trigonometry. That is not correct.
No.
That formula is correct, but it does not apply to what can be observed. So this whole thing, I think, is being just kind of allowed to fester between people and to become a big fight with people, that this group is stupid, this group is stupid. You got this group is arguing about whether there's a dome or whether there's an edge or whether there's an ice wall. But the important thing is what is going on with all the money that is supposedly been used for things like NASA.
NASA, $50 million a day.
A day. And I think it's like 52 now. It's up to like $52 million a day.
That wouldn't shock me.
So what are we getting for that? And what have we gotten for decades? And so that, I think, is the really important question. And then the other one is, I would say it goes back to money no matter what, because imagine you have, so 500 years ago, Copernicus comes out with this idea and it starts to become adopted. Entire industries are born from it. Academia is now based on it. You have millions of textbooks printed, millions of hours of documentary, you have channels, you have entire scientific programs and research labs dedicated to it. And I don't know anybody that says that they don't think that the government lies routinely or that we have been lied to. And it's always over money.
No, you're
So
right.
now, so let's say now up until like when a serious space race began between the Soviets and the United States, up until that point, aircraft at that time couldn't even get to a vantage point to even really know what was going on. This is a very modern thing in the human timeline. It's a blip.
It is. Yeah.
So all of a sudden they find out during the space race, and this is just my theory. This is what I think. I think they found out that they couldn't get very high. And there are some great. Well, no, even just you get to a certain altitude and physical propulsion systems do not work. There are some great real-time videos of people showing that physical propulsion does not work in a vacuum chamber. When they bring the pressure down, jets don't work. Just a fan with a blade. They hang a feather in front of it. As soon as they pull a vacuum on it, that feather just stops moving and the fan's whirring away. But there's one where they actually light off a rocket engine inside a vacuum chamber hanging from a string, and it spews all the exhaust out, but it doesn't move even a bit on that string.
Yep. No, that's a good point.
So I think what could have very well happened was that they got to this point unintentionally through nobody's fault, and they're like, oh my God, now what? And
Yeah.
the decision was made, we're not going to say anything.
Maybe,
And I think
but
that's very likely what happened.
yeah. Well, you got to also take into account, and yeah, you talk about Operation Fishbowl. He's also incidentally mentioning gravity as well. But you also have to take into account though the whole Darwinism push, and which has nothing to do with Darwin, right? But that whole anti-religion push that came out of the scientists who had just embraced Darwinism or the theory of evolution. You have that as well. You have this huge push over the past 150 to 170 years to absolutely kill the power of the Catholic Church and to, make it a laughing stock, which they've done successfully. I mean, look
And
at
I
how
don't think a lot of
Christians are
people
treated these days, right?
I don't think a lot of people realize too how much of our science is theoretical science, which basically
Well,
means
most
it
of
is
it.
not
Yeah.
proven. Yeah,
Yeah, most of
almost
it.
almost
Yeah.
all of it is.
Yeah.
You have a few laws, and the one that comes into play for our discussion tonight is the second law of thermodynamics. That you cannot have a pressurized system next to a negative pressure system without a solid barrier. You cannot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and there's a lot of science that throws wrenches into the whole idea of space as that actual vacuum or a void, which means that if there is space, then it's not that. It's something else. Now, it's interesting because we've seen some actions taken in recent years, very recent years, that push back against these things model. Like, for instance, the idea that they're starting to say, well, space isn't a complete vacuum now. They're all of a sudden saying that now, right? Where they were staunchly, it's a pure vacuum, right? But also recently, I think one of the most interesting things I've seen them say, well, technically the moon is actually within the atmospheric envelope of Earth. Have you heard that one?
Oh yeah, that was about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Now, explain that. I think in our lifetime, I think we're going to get some revelations. I think they're slowly getting everyone ready because they're going to have to.
No.
As consumer electronics and optics improve in quality,
Yeah.
they're going to have explaining to do, and it's getting closer to that point where
Yeah.
they're going to have to start explaining some things.
They are. And the chat has got a lot of great comments here. You guys are awesome. I think the funniest one right now that's got me is Bullet says, "Jesus, take the wheel."
He's right.
He is right. Just let Jesus take over. He'll be all right. There is one from earlier. Let me scroll back up real quick. Asuka says, "I just found some flights from Santiago, Chile to Sydney, 20 hours, $850 with LTAM Airlines. Come on, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but the cross-Pacific argument was crap." Well, I thought so too,
Book it.
Asuka.
Book it and
Book it.
take it.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if we can do a GoFundMe to get you the money back.
Yeah. Well,
Book
here's
it and actually see if it doesn't get diverted or it doesn't have to make a stop.
But it's
That's
not
what people are finding out.
but it's also not even that simple, dude. Because look at what Asuka had just said: 20 hours, right? And we know at the speed. This is the reason why I think there's something to it. Because I was just like you. I agree. But the problem is, it shouldn't take 20 hours. It's way longer than it should be. Because
Well, they're making stops.
Yeah, no, even straight, even the ones that they'll put up and say are actually straight flight, which you can never actually book, by the way. But
Right.
the ones that they're giving times though that are way too slow. I mean, those even the smallest type of commercial aircraft these days do not travel that slow. Right? They can't actually, this is another little hidden problem inside that, Asuka. So I get you because I used to think the same thing, but you look a little bit deeper into it, there's something quirky going on with that. I don't know why, but that is a very interesting thing.
And there are people testing that, and repeatedly they're finding out that the flight is full, they can't get it, or they get on a flight and it ends up having to make a stop. And this is repeatedly happening.
Yeah.
That
Well,
there are no direct flights. I know people are probably not going to believe just some guy on this show saying it. There are no direct flights from South America to Australia. They all make a stop.
yeah. It is a weird thing, guys. But I understand Asuka's thinking because I was the same way. But if you look into the speed that commercial aircraft travel and you measure it out, and you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. There's so
and
many
I don't doubt Asuka because they do list those flights as being available. But what I'm saying is, okay, go book it, Or maybe we can all do like a GoFundMe or something and get someone together,
Yeah.
go book that flight and take it and see what happens.
Well,
You will not go nonstop.
they didn't even used to have them available, until
Hmm.
all this flat Earth stuff started becoming something, and then all of a sudden they started showing up, right?
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of response to the flat Earth people in the scientific and commercial world. Actually, it's quite shocking. But you guys are making lots of great comments. I'm trying to pick and choose best I can because I got to let George get in here, and of course Todd is going to moan soon, I'm sure. But here's a good one. Human sheeple, great name by the way. So if I put a magnet on a helium balloon, why doesn't it sink? Well, very good question. How about this one? Let me up you one. They tell us that gravity keeps water on this round ball, even though we're spinning at supersonic speeds around ourselves, and we're going around our sun at even more incredible speeds, and then we're ripping through the universe at even higher speeds in that supposed vacuum. Well, if that's true, then why if I take a ball-shaped piece of metal and I put little ledges on it and I pour some water on top of it, what happens? Does the water stick to the surface of that round metal I'm holding in my hand? No, it doesn't. It just goes into the sinking areas because water takes the easiest path for it to go. So if that is true, then how does the water stick to the planet like glue? People say it's atmospheric pressure. Well, okay, well, I'm holding this sphere in my hand. Does gravity and atmospheric pressure not apply to me where I am? Is there some kind of magic where gravity only works when I'm not looking at it? And how about this? You have clouds above you, right? With millions of pounds of water sitting in them, millions of pounds of water, but they just stay up there. And you say, well, eventually saturation happens and they drop. Oh, really? Because sometimes you get black clouds pass over, don't drop any water for quite a while, and then they will just torrentially drop it. But then you have a little light, puffy little cloud, which will sprinkle water on you from time to time, where on other days it is beautifully floating above you, right? And you say, there's science for that, Chester. Well, is there? Does a gravity only apply half the time or some of the time? There's a problem here, right? It's a problem. And that's in the most basic atmospheric science that you studied in junior high school, right?
Well, I've had this conversation with a family member, and one point I like to make people when they talk about gravity is first of all, gravity is a theory admitted by
Mm,
physicists. It's a
it
theory.
is a
They don't know
theory.
how it
Yeah.
works. They'll tell you they can explain it. They can explain what it does. Um, they can describe its effects, but they have no idea how it works. None
Yeah.
at all. But you can you can take your weak powered consumer grade vacuum cleaner and you can move things around. You can pull dust and dirt off the floor. Now, how is it that a vacuum and absolutely and a lot of people don't realize how strong a vacuum is. I work with vacuum chambers and high powered vacuum pumps pulling 30 inches of mercury, and it will desiccate a human being. It will boil the water out of your body. If you put water into a vacuum chamber and put it under 30 inches, it will boil. So how is it that the current science that we're being told
Mhm.
cannot overpower a weak vacuum cleaner pulling dust off your floor, or if you blow dust off your desk? Where is
Yeah.
gravity?
Yeah. And of course keep in mind as well that if you put water into a vacuum, it automatically boils at room temperature. So if they're keeping
Yes.
these astronauts in these air conditioning units that are not being protected by vacuum, by the way, why aren't the human bodies boiling away? Because we're made up mainly of water. Right, and of course, a human sheeple here makes a very good point. It says clouds have charge because of the gap between the micro droplets of water and their density and their dielectricity gives them the net buoyancy. Well, that's exactly my point, human. Thank you very much, because they're trying to say pressures and various things like that have to do with the clouds and the oceans. I'm saying no, it's electrical. And Booster says, how does plasma come into this somehow? Well, it comes into it because the electric universe starts to play into the math here. And do understand this, guys. We're having a fun conversation. I'm going to I'm going to stop here and let George have his moment. But do keep in mind, guys, I hate this theory. I hate it with a passion because I love Star Trek. I love space. I love the idea of going to other planets and expanding into the universe. And of course, a lot of the Christians have made comments that are part of the flat earth saying that the whole point of this was to make us less important. Because if we're in this little captive thing, well, then someone built it, and therefore they feel that we're worthy of being saved and being here, right? So it makes us special. But of course, the us being just one little speck in the insignificant expanse of space makes us nothing, right? Which I'm sure Carl Sagan is going to get into in a moment. I hate this theory with passion because I love the concept of going to space. But the problem we have here is these scientific arguments are very, very, very questionable. And it brings us back to that simple understanding. We don't know shit. Yeah.
We really don't. And Chester, that's a really interesting thing too, because I've thought about that before. But I don't believe in a vacuum of space at all.
No.
And no one could ever convince me. But it does not affect my my love of science fiction. It just doesn't affect it. Who cares? It's fiction. Science fiction.
It hurts my wee little heart, model.
Does it really?
It
Because it
does.
doesn't bother me a bit.
It does. But anyway, we really need to let George speak. So, because this is the problem with flat Earth, and I think this is the reason why we've not touched it yet. Because damn, this is hours of conversation if we want it to be. But George, I'm going to play your little intro. So you ready?
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. All right, this is George's intro, and then I'm going to let him take it away. All right, guys. So let me do this. Let me do it like that, and then I'm going to do like that.
Here's a map of ancient Egypt. I've inserted 2 sticks or obelisks.
George is listening
One
to
up
us.
here in Alexandria and one down here in Syene. Now,
He falls
if at a certain moment
I'm here.
each stick casts no shadow,
I know that George and
shadow
Todd
at
were
all.
going to switch places,
that's
and maybe he
perfectly
took
easy
it
to
literally.
understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Syene is at a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked,
I can't
that
hear
at the
him.
same instant
No, you
there
can't.
was no shadow at Syene and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer was that the surface of the Earth is curved. Not only that, but the greater the curvature, the bigger the difference in the lengths of the shadows. The sun is so far away that its rays are parallel when they reach the Earth. Sticks at different angles to the sun's rays will cast shadows at different lengths. For the observed difference in the shadow lengths, the distance between Alexandria and Syene had to be about 7 degrees along the surface of the Earth. By that I mean, if you imagine these sticks extending all the way down to the center of the Earth, they would there intersect at an angle of about 7 degrees. Well, 7 degrees is something like a 50th of the full circumference of the Earth, 360 degrees. Eratosthenes knew the distance between Alexandria and Syene. He knew it was 800 kilometers. Why? Because he hired a man to pace out the entire distance so that he could perform the calculation I'm talking about. Now, 800 kilometers times 50 is 40,000 kilometers. So that must be the circumference of the Earth. That's how far it is to go once around the Earth. That's the right answer. Eratosthenes' only tools were sticks, eyes, feet, and brains, plus a zest for experiment.
I miss Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan. I miss him, man. He is wonderful. I really feel bad for the younger generation, man, because they have to deal with the DeGrasse Tyson Neal, whatever his name is, and that friggin' science guy. What's his name? I can't
Bill
remember his
Nye.
name. Bill. Oh my God.
Bill Nye.
Yeah, Carl Sagan was so awesome, dude. Oh well. Anyway, sorry, George. Go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was Carl Sagan. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I'll be here till next Tuesday.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George.
Now, my understanding of that experiment is it's very questionable because of the distances involved and the methods of communication. A lot of people say that there's no way they could have ever done that experiment the way it is written.
Well,
It's
yeah, but
the whole point is that while we have advanced technologies today to prove that the Earth is flat or round, the interesting thing is very simple concept of walking the distance, figuring out the position of the sun. Just what Carl Sagan said. Just very simple observations
mhm.
will bring you to understand that there is some sort of spherical body that we're
Yeah.
on.
Well, you got to
Eh,
hate me, George.
how much of a spherical body it is up for debate.
Well,
You
my
got to
understanding of that experiment as well is that it would work on a flatter plane. That it works on both
Yeah.
models.
Well, and also George is really going to hate me for this, but I also know that Carl Sagan left some of that out, by the way, because I have read that. And in truth, what the guy who was talking about this, putting forward this theory, um, uh, he actually did something very similar you saw Carl doing with the paper there. And of course, we're now talking about sun angles more than we are curvature, right? And I love the presentation of it. It's automatic, like, yep, that's it, and you're on board. But it's not that simple, actually. And yeah, it has more to do with sun curvature than anything else. I think, but nevertheless, it
Well,
is
yeah,
beautiful.
because
Oh,
continually you hear about the sun being called a directional light source, that all the light rays come in parallel. That is not true. It's an omni. It's
It
a
should be.
spherical body.
It
It's an
should be.
omni light source, and
Yes.
anybody that works with lighting, especially in 3D, knows that a directional light is not equal to an omni light.
Mhm, mhm. And
It's not the same.
it is interesting how they've gotten themselves around a lot of these very obvious questions, because they say, "Oh, the atmosphere diffracts light and it does weird things with light. It's the atmosphere." They always blame it on the atmosphere. They always find some way to get out of the questions that people come up with, right?
And huge, massive numbers that people cannot comprehend.
Yeah, yeah.
okay. The other thing is regarding the quickening of the information and how it's coming out more and more quickly now, is that the NASA and the people who are holding the information back are under a very tight deadline now
Mhm,
because of there's several objects, large objects the size of Manhattan, that have entered the boundaries of our solar system, and these objects are not in any normal trajectory. They are actually independent trajectories, and they're not. So um, the second thing is the UFOs that we did just a few weeks ago, the pill-shaped UFOs off of California.
mhm.
The the information is getting quicker and quicker, and it's becoming more and more confirmed by the government because pretty soon we're going to be surprised with aliens
Nah, no way.
within our midst.
Never happen.
Now we're getting into another TFT show, George. But I get
Oh,
your
well,
point. Yeah.
I thought we were part. The flat Earth has a lot to do with the aliens who are coming here. I mean, they're
Uh,
curious. They're curious to know why this particular body of all celestial bodies is flat.
Yeah, okay, all right, I get it, George. Okay, but yeah, unfortunately, the flat Earth does not go well with alien conversation because it kind of negates the whole concept, which is one other reason why I hate the damn thing. Because I love aliens. Aliens are cool, especially when they want to kill us. But anyway, Booster makes a very good point to you guys. He says 2 subs away from 800. Give us a sub, guys. We cover crazy conspiracies like this every week. We do. And we would appreciate any kind of subs. I know I always call for sharing and having people come in live with us because we are live streamers, but we do appreciate the subs and likes as well, guys. Thank you. And Wild Food says, has Chester ever done a global warming TFT? I will if you'd like. And flat girls are real. Unfortunately, Bullet, I live in Japan, the land of flat girls, so I know right well. But we could do global warming because that's a complete nonsense. And it is a conspiracy theory, but it's kind of the opposite type of conspiracy theory we're dealing with right now, in some ways. But they both deal with cover ups in a way, don't they? But
It's a tax scheme.
it is a
It's a
tax
way for
scheme.
them to
Yeah,
tax air.
it is.
They're already taxing water. They want to tax air.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's more about it also has to do with the globalism and the control and yeah, etc. And once again, it comes down to one of the reasons why they're so anti-Trump. I mean, that's it comes into play. You have to ask yourself, why are they so vehemently and venomously anti-Trump? It can't be just because he's a jerk. I mean, goodness gracious, dude. There's reasons behind it, and it plays into this similar kind of conversation we're having right now. But anyway, Todd, we've been sitting here talking for an hour, Todd, going over various things. Now we haven't even got into the sun and the moon, and there's so much stuff we could cover with flat Earth that needs to be covered. But what are you thinking so far? What's your comments?
Do you think Elon Musk would spend that much money to help NASA do this
He's
kind
getting paid by the
He's getting
government.
paid, dude.
horrible?
He's getting paid a lot of money. Yeah, I'm sure he would. Happily so. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Because the thing is, people say, how could this theory possibly be kept a secret? It's not hard at all. It's very easy thing. It's much easier conspiracy to keep hidden than most other ones because no one has any proof. The only information you get is from your teacher that's in your class, and basically it all coming out of NASA and the people who get paid and work for NASA. Right. And the
mhm.
thing that's funny about classrooms and teachers, I am a teacher, you guys know that. But I have not only being a teacher myself, but I've talked to a lot of teachers in my life. And here's something that might shock you about most teachers, not all, but most teachers. They basically read a chapter ahead of the rest of the kids, dude. That's about it. They don't know anything. A teacher is not a specialist of math or a specialist of science or history or whatever things like that. They are a specialist in educating people with the syllabus that they have at hand, right? And they're almost this willful members of conspiracy spreading, actually, even though they might not realize it. It's just what it comes down to. Now, some teachers are much more dynamic, and they do a lot more, and they try to enlighten the minds of their students, sure. But the average teacher is simply just following the syllabus. The skill is not about the knowledge; it's about the ability to educate. Because here's the thing that I've seen absolutely to be the truth. There's plenty of very smart people I met in my life that can't teach crap because they don't have the skills or understanding how to do it. It's a very nuanced thing to be able to be a teacher, and it has nothing to do with knowledge, oddly enough. And of course, that's a wonderful bed of useful idiots to spread conspiracy and lies, isn't it?
I've worked with thousands of people throughout the years teaching classes, and the two groups of people that are the least capable of critical thought are school teachers and
Hmm.
police officers.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. They hire him
They are
intentionally for
they
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They just do not go outside of what they're told.
Yeah, no, it's true, and particularly with because one another thing about teachers and cops as well is there is a level of let's use the word pride. How about that? There's a level of pride involved in what they do, and they don't like being questioned. Have you ever tried to actually question a teacher? I can give you an example of one time I did. Um, I was because I was a military kid, and I jumped around and went to different places. I ended up in different schools, right? And I went from one southern school into a northern school. And the southern school, I mean, the northern school was basically just extremely, I don't know, racist or something ism against the southern schools, saying, well, we're not going to apply these credit points because it's from there. Right. And so I actually, even though I graduated high school early, not because of high school early, just because I was one of those jump kids, but I actually in my senior year, or it was actually my junior year, I had to do a first year makeup. simply because they wouldn't take that credit over. So I had a very busy last year, and I'm sitting in this lady's class, and I'm sitting with a bunch of freshmen, even though I was a senior, right? And uh, the teacher was going on about the Sandinistans, right? And she was on and on about how wonderful they were and yada yada yada. And of course, what she was doing, she was selling communism to her students, right? And I was like, "Whoa, wait, back up a second." And I got in an argument with her in class, like an actual anti-communist argument, and she got ripped at me, dude, and she kicked me out of class. First time I ever get kicked out of class. I went down to the vice principal, sorry, who was in charge of those kind of things. I sat down in front of me, kind of looked at me. He said, "Why?" I explained to him. He said, "Go sit in the other room until the end of class and go to your next class." That's it. But he knew she was doing that kind of stuff, and I caught no trouble for it. But I mean, this is the kind of thing you can't question them, right? And this is why these professors, getting off subject a little bit, are so troublesome when it comes to this SJW progressive nonsense, because they will not be questioned. It's the mentality, but yet they are so
When you're
easily manipulated.
another interesting just tidbit about police officers and school teachers is they tend to get married to each other a lot. Very, very high rates.
Well, it's a divergent, but it is an interesting one, because one of the things people say is, how could they keep it secret? I don't think it's very hard at all, particularly because all the information is coming from NASA, and with people like Elon Musk, he gets paid a lot of money. He'll say whatever they want him to say. Right? It's particularly because, why do you think they're letting him do his crazy experiments and his ideas of his super tunnel magnetic lift and all those other things he's doing? Why do you think they're letting him do that crazy stuff? Because that is way too expensive. No one can afford that. But yet they're
Oh,
letting
can
him
I
do
ask
it.
Todd a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Todd, do you think that that video of them putting a Tesla in space was real? Remember that
No.
launch? Okay.
Yeah, no, that looked kind of
Yeah.
hokey.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
hokey.
it was definitely fake as could be.
But I think the science that Tesla is or Musk is using is somebody else's science, right? And
Oh,
they
sure.
wanted to go, like George says, they wanted to come forward. So he's sort of somebody they picked to make it seem like, hey, this guy can do this sort of thing. So I think some of that science you're talking about, we will see.
Yeah.
But it's like they're just using him as sort of a, he's behind it all kind of thing. And it's
Yeah, because they can't actually manufacture a well-functioning car,
right.
and they're in the space race, which is
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, it is
Well,
crazy.
actually, Tesla can't compete in the open market. All the cars are subsidized by the government. If the government takes that subsidy out, the entire company would shutter instantly.
Oh, well, there's a lot of economic reason to keep it up. You're right, George. And do keep in mind, I see someone here mention the Nazis. Paul mentioned them. Oh, do keep in mind, NASA was actually founded by Nazis. And go watch our Project Paperclip if you don't believe that.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, NASA, the person who actually founded NASA was a Jewish man, but it was all Nazis top to bottom.
Yeah. We
as
covered
far
that
as
in
in the
Project
scientific
Paperclip.
goals, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. But we are starting to kind of get off on little tangents here or there. Does anyone have anything very concrete they would like to add, like Dinale possibly?
They're also talking about the dimension of waves. Basically, part of the things is, if the curvature, this is what the flat earths are saying, if it's really curvature, then the waves shouldn't be acting the way they are.
Yeah.
Because the math doesn't, the look of it, the math of it doesn't equal.
No, it
Again,
doesn't.
we go back to your statement that the mathematics is wrong.
Yeah.
We can see it's wrong, but the math is wrong,
Yeah.
and there's something else happening that's affecting the waves, and not the way that it's acting based on the math it should be doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the whole water thing is a major problem for them, and people just don't question it because, like I said, it's gravity. It just pick when it wants to work and when it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense because you can do all kind of experiments with water that do not apply to gravity at all. A matter of fact, water seems to defy gravity, but yet they say that it's the whole principle of the globe Earth is that the water sticks to rounded surfaces, right? Because keep in mind, a model here broke down that huge formula I showed you guys earlier to simply the 8-inch expansion per mile type of thing. It's not that far. You actually should not be able to see that far out and not notice ships going over the crest of the curvature. It's not that far. The curvature is quite extreme based on the science they give us, actually. So how in the world is water not doing that? We know water doesn't look like that. It doesn't work like that. And the continents themselves don't apply to the way water is supposed to be working. So water is a major issue for the globe Earth, actually. It's a major
Well,
issue.
something I thought about today, Chester, just kind of thinking about getting ready for this. you know, 500 years ago, the idea of an Earth being 25,000 miles in circumference is
Mhm.
pretty big, right?
Mhm.
When I was thinking about it today, it's that's not that big.
No,
In
it's not.
24 hours, I can drive about 1,200 miles in 24 hours.
Sure. More even.
So, yeah, probably more. So, you know what? The Earth isn't that big. So every time you hear people talking about, oh, the Earth's so big, it's actually not that big.
Mhm.
It used to be huge when it would take weeks to get anywhere.
Right, with flight and cars, it
Yeah,
takes a
it's
shorter
not
time.
that big.
Mhm.
Right.
That's why I think most likely it's way bigger.
Bullet says, but Bruce Lee told me to be like water, though. Yeah, and you should be. That's right. Diller says, why the hell was I watching Rick Piper when Model 316 and Chester are discussing flat Earth? Very good question, sir. Very good question.
Because Rick Piper's cool.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Mizu no Kokuro.
Dude. All right, fine, fine. Okay. Let's transition over into the last real big point. We are kind of touching the big points. We're not getting into an in-depth thing. It would take hours to really, touch on every little thing. And do keep in mind, guys, we can do a flat Earth point too. I think we should. And really, what I would like this to be is a primer to get you guys in the chat involved. I would love for you to come in like Model has today and give your opinion because I look at the chat. You guys are really interested in this and you have ideas. So go to my Twitter, which is right below in the YouTube here. Click on it and tell me you want to be on the show, and I will do a second show on Flat Earth and get you in here to give your opinion, guys. Seriously,
The
this is
chat is great tonight.
yeah, absolutely awesome. Yeah. And because this is a great conversation, it's a very interesting one, and it's a spooky one because people in the back of their head, they know it could be true and they don't want it to be. Right. And
And
that's the great thing about flat Earth of all conspiracies, I think. So we would love to do it again. But the last one I want to move into, though, if we could for today, just touch
mhm,
on a little bit because I didn't really prepare a big presentation for this. But one of the big problems with the flat Earth, model as it sits right now, is the sun and moon, right? Because the science on the sun and moon is this sun is this gigantic, massive, enormous thing that's sitting 92 million miles, is it, or something like that?
Correct.
Uh,
93 million miles.
93 million miles away. Thank you.
That's the current.
And they keep moving it, by the way. But supposedly this thing when it comes through the clouds or does this, and only sits on one little teeny spot, and then like all this kind of weird, strange math that they try to put it in, and then they throw in the atmospheric curvature and all this kind of the eye works like this, and they do all that kind of stuff. And then of course you have this little moon, which is perfectly sized to it, etc., etc., etc. The real problem we come into here, I think, going back to my comment about the Darwinism, that a lot of the scientists at that time kind of grabbed a hold of that because they really, really wanted to destroy religion. They're so anti-religious. Right, because the flat Earth would, if I don't, I'm like Model. I don't think it's that simple, but the flat Earth people, they are coming from a religious point of view, right? Because if the Earth is flat, and therefore is domed, who made it? The creator made it, right? And now you get into that kind of conversation. And a lot of people these days, they've been very successful of stigmatizing ironically to use that word, but stigmatizing religion. People balk and laugh at it now. They mock it, right? Oh, you're so silly, right? But it is at the crux of the flat Earth thing. And of course, what the flat Earth people are saying is that the sun and the moon are exactly the same size, and they are rotating within the atmosphere of the dome within a seasonal movement, right? So now that model is radically different what science is telling you. Not only it's more radical than the concept of flat Earth itself, right? Because now we're not talking about this, what is the supposed shape of the planet. Now we're saying the sun is nowhere near the size or the distance that it is. The problem I have with this is that a lot of the observation of how the sun works plays more into a smaller sun within the envelope than it does in a gigantic sun 93 million miles away. So, who wants to
Well,
tackle that?
there are documented instances, modern instances of an eclipse occurring with the sun in the sky. Now, that should not be possible. So if you're looking at an eclipse on one side of the sky and you see the sun on the other, how is the shadow of the Earth eclipsing the moon?
Right.
So, and that is evidenced. You can go find that. You can go watch videos.
Yeah, no.
And
And of course, the double suns that
there's
we've
no
been seeing a lot.
explanation for it.
Well, there's two suns too, there's a lot of pictures of videos of two suns, dude. And of course, that plays into the Nibiru or Planet X conversation, which is a whole different TFT conversation. But maybe they play into each other because let me share my screen real quick again and bring up that image I had from before. I'll just do it again here. All right. Boom. This map right here has become very, very popular these days, actually, amongst flat earthers. And one of the reasons is because it's talking about multiple suns. Look at them, right? You have Set and Anubis, which are set in here, and you have Sol, which is our sun, and then look at all these suns and moons. There's so many of them. They say that's craziness. That's crazy talk. The ancients didn't think so. And of course, these kind of things we're talking about today, with the double suns or suns and eclipses happening at the same time, et cetera, which are well documented, they have to be explained somehow. Now, the Nibiru or Planet X conversation is probably the easiest one to explain it, but there are other options. What do you
Well, there are
guys?
your aliens right there. You can have your aliens.
Right there, yeah, other people's, yeah. And I couldn't find it. I was looking for it, but there was another map where a person was tracking the sun movements and other kind of things, and they actually created a computer-based model that showed that it didn't look round like this. It was more like almost like a open figure eight. Was the shape of things, and that was done with a computer model. Actually, I thought that was pretty cool, but I couldn't find it. Denali, what do you think about this idea of two suns in the sky, eclipse and sun at the same time, which is ridiculous? I mean, what do you think about these kind of things?
I mean, I haven't witnessed it with my eyes, but there's been a lot of accounts that's been happening. Is it, do they say it's a trick? It's an illusion that happens for whatever reasons, but there's been documented events of all this.
Mhm.
So, and we need to ask those questions is there something to these things, regardless of what you believe? Because that's what, if you're a scientist, you ask those questions,
Sure.
regardless of where it takes you, because that's the basis of what science is. It's the need to know because you're trying to understand the gods and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the last eclipse we had, the shadow moved the wrong way across the United States, and no
Yeah.
one wanted to even talk about it. Not even that, but it's too small.
Well, more than that, there were a lot of people who were really excited about that one because of the long eclipse across the whole states, the America, and a lot of people were sitting in the right position waiting for it, and they didn't get to see it because it moved a wrong way, right?
Mhm.
That was a very interesting thing, and they didn't touch that at all. The news channels like dropped that like a hot
Not at
potato,
all.
man. People say, is this where Atlantis is? The whole Bullet says, are you saying that we were in Atlantis the whole time, Chester? I'm not saying nothing. right? But and of course that is Atlantis. DeWolf says, yeah, no, look at the three rings. It very much is reminiscent of Atlantis, isn't it? And therefore the concept of the Great Flood being the flooding of Atlantis, meaning this is all Atlantis. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I get it. But I want to try to focus here on the sun and moon. What do you say, George? About this whole idea of multiple suns and multiple moons and things like that. Because, dude, we have a lot of video evidence, man.
I witnessed a double sun when I was in high school.
Hmm.
I really didn't think anything of it. When I pointed it out to my parents said, "Oh, that's just the moon uh, glowing because the sun's hitting it."
Oh, I see. Well, that's very handy. How?
Hey, I was in high school.
Oh,
That
okay,
that,
okay, a fair
that
point.
made as much sense
And
as
there's the
Well, and to be
problem, right?
fair, that's probably the only way your parents knew how to explain it.
Yeah.
How, I mean, what else would they think? And I've seen a double sun as well. So I've seen those things. One thing that I would say to like people just to do this on your own, just for the fun of it. Next time you're up in the morning and the sun's coming up, go outside, turn your face into the sun and close your eyes and just sit there and think and ask yourself, is that 93 million miles away?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, DeWolf says, yeah, but what does Kim Kardashian think about this? Thanks, DeWolf. That was very enlightening.
It's a
Human
good
Sheeple,
question.
good question, yeah. Human Sheeple says, so obviously NASA knows we know they know their rockets are phony, and we're onto their hologram space stations, so they're not trying to actually go to space with lasers. Hmm. 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 But of course, phasers are much more powerful. You do know that, right? But yeah, no, yeah, I get you. Um, yes, please, you're hurting my skin. Very nice, Devoid. I like that one. All right. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go too much deeper into this because I really think we should do a second one model and have get into more specific things that we haven't covered here, particularly with the sun and the atmosphere and all those other kind of things like that. And I really hope some of the
Yeah.
people in chat come over and be part of it. Go ahead, Todd.
Do you plan to present the truth in the next one?
Well, enlighten us.
No, I thought you were gonna give like it seems like you gave more of a let's I can kind of prove that maybe there's something to it argument and
Yeah,
not
well,
stuff. This is a bunch of hocus pocus.
really, I don't think so. Well, I think what I've said here today is that obviously the math is wrong. Obviously, something isn't right, and we're being lied to. Now, what that means in the end, I don't know. Is it as simple as flat Earth? Because honestly, I think flat Earth is the simplest solution. Now, Arkham's razor certainly comes into the argument there, and I understand that. But I don't know that it's that simple, Todd. Or maybe it is. But I do know that's wrong. Out of all the conspiracy theories we've done here, Todd, this one is the hardest to debunk. It really is, dude. And I see a lot of people trying to debunk it, but it's nonsense. Their nonsense is just as much nonsense as NASA, right? Because this one is hard. All the other TFTs we do, they're fun. We have a good joke with them. We're having the same fun here today. But this one is tough, dude, because we're being lied to, Todd. There is
Well, you didn't.
absolutely a problem.
I thought you were gonna actually bring some like ancient civilization
I
proof.
could I could do that if you'd like, but I was
I
trying to
was
keep
hoping
away from it because you
you were
guys yell at me every time I
anti-Semitic.
do it.
No, this is why I came because I thought you were gonna like I can show you the Mayans. They didn't believe this crap, and they knew some stuff that we don't even know today. I thought you were gonna give me a little bit of juice, you know?
Well, I can answer that in a simple way because I don't want to. Maybe I'll save it more for the second time, part two. Excuse me, because um, I did mention a little bit in the beginning. I just kind of glossed over it. All the religions on Earth, of all the wars and all the hate and murder and destruction they've had over millennia, the one thing they don't argue about is the structure of our world. and they all believe in one formula or not. The Jews believe that the earth sits upon a four-legged footstool. Matter of fact, it says that in the Bible very directly. It is God's footstool. You have other religions that believe that it's a turtle, a four-legged turtle. But they all believe that the earth sits upon a platform, and underneath that platform is some underworld area, and it is a flat surface. It is always presented as being a circle, round, like a pizza, and they also believe it is domed. So the ancient peoples, this is not shocking to them at all. They believe this 100%. Right? Now, when you come up to the points of the Greeks, there were plenty of Greek scientists who were trying to find the formula, and there were some Egyptian ones too, but it was mainly the Greeks and later with the Arabs, interestingly enough. And of course, we just saw Carl Sagan talking about that. So if you want to get into ancient peoples, they 100% believe this, dude, and they believed universally in the formation or the structure of it as well. Right? So the ancients, this is not a shocking conversation to them at all. It's normal. Does that help?
Sure.
Yeah, the Earth has only been an atmospheric sphere in a vacuum for a few hundred years.
Not even
That's all.
less than that. Even when Copernicus and his sphere idea, we didn't get the atmospheric aspects playing into way later, dude. Way later. Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't ever say it's flat. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just what I will and confident in saying it is not a sphere 25,000 miles in diameter in a
No.
vacuum in
No.
space.
No. And
It's not that.
And another thing we didn't get into, we can get into part two as well, is you get people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? And he's a good front man. That's what he is. He's a front man. He's a PR guy, is what he is.
He's an actor.
He's an actor. He's not
Yeah.
this great, super awesome physicist. He's never done anything actually. And I'm not saying I don't like him. I think he's very personable. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's great to talk to listen to him talk. But he is a front man, obviously. But one of the things that they get into is about how the Earth is perfectly round. And if you look at all these imagery that NASA has given us, they're all artistic interpretations, right? Or stitched together pictures. We have no picture, not one picture in all this time of Earth. Not one. How is that possible? How about this? If you look at all those spacewalks and all those things in space and all these rockets and satellites and Hubble telescopes and yada, 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 all that kind of stuff, why do we not have one 180 panoramic shot? Why? Not once. You would think statistically they would have by accident done that, but they haven't.
And there's a great collage of all the official NASA
Yeah.
released pictures of Earth
It's
where they're
nonsense.
all sized so that the actual sphere is the same size in the image, and the continents are all different sizes.
Different sizes. Yeah, everything's different. Yeah.
Sometimes North America is half of the globe. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just
ridiculous.
insane.
And people
So-
have shown that they've copied and pasted, like in Adobe and stuff like that. It's nonsense, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I
the
always
clone
wondered-
tool, you can see it.
I always wondered why they didn't have the camera out. You know how they have that boom?
Mhm.
You know, why they didn't just put a camera on that boom
Yep.
so that you could see all of the ship and the guy working or whatever he's doing out there.
Good
They
question.
never do.
They never
It's
do.
always a
Never.
sort of sliver of the ship, you know, in the corner or along the edge of the picture that you're seeing a video of, and then the guy working where he's working
Mhm.
to
And
show
a massive fisheye lens.
Yeah,
right,
massive
and they show
fisheye
you
lens.
a lot
Yeah.
of lack of space.
And
it's like,
Wingnut,
why show so much space?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Wingnut, dude, they do have thousands of photos of the planet. They do, and they use all of those thousands of pictures to stitch them together and give you an image. They don't have one single photo of the Earth from distance. Why not?
Yes, you've never seen a picture of the
Never.
Earth. You think you have,
Never.
but you haven't. You've never
Yeah.
seen one.
Yeah.
There isn't one.
There isn't one. And like I said, there isn't even a simple 180-degree pan of Earth. None. Even from the low altitude that they're sitting at. And that space station you got sitting up there, what do they call that thing? The International Space Station? How come we have no video of that thing put together? Not one. Nothing.
Think about how many every phone has a camera. There are cities where they can watch you leave your house and go to work and go anywhere. Why is there not one HD camera in space that
Yeah,
is streaming 24 hours a
weird.
day? Why?
Yeah, and you have
They'll put a Tesla in space, but they won't put a GoPro in space. Why?
And they got the what about that? What do they call that satellite that's supposedly sitting up there near the sun, and it gives us all our telemetry on the sun all the time? Why don't they have a camera just take a look back at the Earth? Just one little shot. How about all these ones going to Mars? They can't put a camera on the back of the ship and just give us a shot of Earth as they're leaving it? No, no. It's just 100% all over the place. Now, Wingnut is saying 100% false. Nope, 100% true.
Yep,
Sorry, dude.
100% true. You're
Sorry,
wrong,
dude.
dude.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you go research that. It's very clear. We have, I know I have, and it sounds like model as well. I prepared for this conversation, dude. It is not. There is no photos, and it's shocking because there should be. And once again, that doesn't prove the Earth is flat. No, it doesn't. But what it proves is we're being lied to, and NASA is at the heart of it. All these
Wingnut,
things.
go, go convince yourself. Go look at, I mean, you're only doing yourself a disservice. So good luck.
Yeah. Well, that's cool though, dude. We're happy to have your opinion.
Absolutely.
And you know
Yeah.
what? When we do part 2, why don't you come on here and talk to us about it? Please do. And create a presentation and show it to us. We'd love to have it. Because you got to keep in mind, we're just sitting here having a conversation, having some fun. We're not. It doesn't really matter. And this is an interesting thing for me. It doesn't really matter if the Earth is flat or round or concave or convex or square or whatever. It doesn't. It doesn't affect my day to day. I could care less. But it is an interesting conversation, and there
Now, this
obviously is a
this
lie
Wingnut
going
guy
on.
is one of these guys who will instantly start saying you're an idiot, you're dumb. That's the type of guy this is.
Oh, maybe. But I don't know. I don't want to assume that. But he's certainly getting more aggressive in here. He's upset with me.
Sure is.
But dude, I did my research actually, and
He
it's
has
one.
no content on his channel whatsoever.
Who?
0 videos. Wingnut. He has 0 videos.
Oh, let's not be
No, I'm just
antagonistic.
saying,
There's
like,
no
he
need
could
for
go
that.
ahead and he could come here and
I'd be happy to have him on.
hey, check
Yeah,
out my video. I have one I did the other day or whatever. But he
yeah. But no, no, no,
hasn't
no.
really done.
I have no problem with that, dude. And you want to come on and talk about it, please do. Your info is like 3 years out of date. Well, okay. But it still doesn't matter. I do know that NASA put up a photo a year or so ago that was supposed to be a picture of the Earth, and that was debunked almost instantly. Because, see, here's the problem. You have these huge bureaucratic agencies that can't move. It's like they're strapped in, and they can't keep up with the autism that is 4chan, right? They can't. Right, and this is the problem. But I'm happy to have a conversation with you, dude, and I would love to have you come on. And no, no one is. But we are having ourselves some fun here, and I don't live on YouTube. Cool. Well, don't
No
live on
one
YouTube. Come and have a conversation with us then, dude.
Yeah, and have some fun,
Open
Wingnut.
door, dude.
Seriously, have
Open
some
door.
fun.
No one here is saying we believe in flat Earth or that we're on some kind of disc or anything. I don't think anyone here. Granted, the whatever we're on may be a shape closest to a sphere than anything else, but we're definitely
Wingnut, the guy who did that picture, admitted he did it in Photoshop
Yeah, he
in an
did.
interview.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same thing as the person who said there was a continent-size island of plastic that was debunked. It's just like the global warming guy put out his little thing, and 95% of scientists nonsense, lies, debunked. There's a lot of lies going on, dude, and it's not just YouTube. But I
That
don't
artist's
need
name is
YouTube.
Rob. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. But the thing is, I don't need YouTube for this. I can step outside and take a look. I can understand that I'm being told this in a book, but yet this is not practically applicable, right? I am not a person who is going to just accept what you say automatically. I'm going to look at it for myself, and I think everybody should do that. Now, but it's very interesting here because this is how passionate people get about this conversation of flat
Mhm.
Earth. It's like it's an offense to them. It's offensive that you dare bring up any questions. And of
Well,
course, the flat
again,
earthers can be quite
Realize-
offensive
again,
too.
it's basically you're attacking their perception of reality
Yeah.
because
Oh,
people
no.
like you're doing they like everybody likes how the reality are, and when something challenge it, they'll challenge it back. Not saying that anybody's doing that. We're just having a conversation, and we're not trying to convince anybody of anything.
I mean,
Robert
actually,
Simon is the name of the artist who did the last composite
Yeah.
of Earth.
Yeah.
And there's an interview with him on YouTube where he basically talks about how he did it in Photoshop.
Yeah, no. These things keep going on and on and on. They won't give us any kind of truth. Go ahead, Todd.
well, the obvious thing to say here is we do have satellites going around our Earth, right? Because
Well,
you can
now,
actually see the
now
low-powered
that's a whole nother
magnetoscope.
conversation for the flat earthers. But go ahead.
That'd be a great one for next time. Satellites, Antarctica would be good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's-
Antarctica's another good. There's
Well,
so
I mean,
much.
though we depend so much on some of those satellites for certain things to.
Do we?
Do we? Yeah. This has
You
been.
don't think
This is
so?
another flat Earth thing you've kind of stumbled into, Todd. I don't have time to get into it.
There's some great footage of them launching huge satellites from Antarctica with balloons.
Mhm.
There's great video footage of it. These huge cranes of putting satellites up.
But there's also a lot of conversation about it simply being the cable system that we have, which circumnavigates the planet in many ways. It looks like we picked up a couple of trolls though, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Awesome, dude. It is so cool to me that you put up one little thing and all of a sudden, boom, YouTube puts up some kind of Wikipedia page for you to go check out because, someone's talking about flat Earth. And then all of a sudden, people show up who are vehemently and venomously against the even conversation of it. And on this little teeny channel, too.
All the Simon Dan fans will be running in.
I feel special. Do you feel special, model? I do.
Absolutely.
I feel special.
I think it's hilarious, to be honest.
But anyway, guys, we have had a lot of fun here today. It's a very interesting conversation. You guys are awesome for coming in here and being part of this. And I'm serious. If you want to come on and talk about it, because we will do part 2 on this, guys. If you want to be part of it, come on in. Right? The only restriction is you got to be cool about it, right? You can disagree all you want, please do, but you have to be respectful. That's the only requirement we have. We only have 2 rules on this channel. Don't come in cussing up a storm, and don't come in picking a fight, right? But bend me some water. Yeah, well, please do. Show me how water bends. Yeah. But anyway, guys, so anybody's have any final comments for today? Dinale?
No, I'm good.
George?
Yeah, I have one statement to debunk everything regarding the flat Earth. Google Earth. Thank you. Thank you very much.
What?
What? George?
Google Earth.
Google Earth. All right. Thank you. Todd?
You want a last statement from me? Oh my god. No,
Do
I
your
don't
best
have.
George impression, man. You gotta bring it home.
I could bring a dad quote, but
Okay.
that's all right. No, that's good. We'll move on. I'll be here the next time too. I hope you bring another side to all this because you seem to take almost one side mostly.
Oh, I told you I would. I told you I was going to play devil's advocate today, and I was going to be the flat earther here. I told you that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, next time maybe I won't do that. Next time maybe I'll be more critical. But for in the end though, Todd, for the thing for me though is really this simple. There are some inconsistencies, and
Yeah.
therefore, what does that mean? That's really for me the beginning and end of it. You know.
I don't know if you guys remember, Neil Adams wrote a huge essay on the Earth sort of pulsating, growing, and then shrinking. And shrinking.
Oh, dude, the expanding Earth theory. That's a great one too, man. Yeah. Thing
And
is, I
that's why
love all of these theories.
Cooler.
Yeah, but I love them all. They're all so
Can
interesting.
anyone reach out to Neil Adams so we can do the whole expanding Earth with him?
I don't
I
know
could.
him, but I think Todd might.
Yeah, I can reach out to him.
Yeah, awesome. That would be great. We could do that as well. Now that isn't, of course, flat Earth, but that the expanding Earth thing,
No,
that's very
I'll get him
interesting.
to, see if he can pick a Sunday that he could join us.
Awesome. Yeah, just let me know and I'll schedule it. But we're definitely going to be doing a part 2 on this. Obviously, there's so much to talk about. Last statement: a triple rainbow destroys both globe and flat. Thank you very much, Paul. Well, why don't you come on, Paul, and tell us what it really is? Because we're at a conundrum here. Because I think we all agree there's problems with the math, and I think a lot of people do, but we don't know what that means, though. So if Paul could come in and give us his theory, that would be awesome. We could talk about it. But model, closing statements, please.
Uh, for as far as this subject, whenever anybody talks about it, people start getting mad, but you really should try to keep it fun. And
Yeah, we're
just
just having
remember
fun, Wingnut,
that
dude.
math is a language, and any language can be used to tell lies. And um, I think that humanity has been done a huge disservice at the hands of organized academia and science, and there's too much junk science.
Yeah. Real science is actually junk science, and that's what he's saying, guys. And another. I'm going to let you continue here in a moment, though. But it is interesting, and I've seen this on other streams that I've watched do flat Earth, and there's always these kind of guys that come in and try to dissuade the chat, right? But I think what you're misunderstanding, dude, is I'll let you know, Wingnut, because I'd love to have you on. But I think you don't understand here is we're all in here just having some fun, guys. We're not all flat earthers here. We're just having fun conversation, and everyone was getting involved and having fun with it. But I think you're misunderstanding where you are, dude. Seriously, this is not a flat Earth community. We're just having fun talking about conspiracy theories, guys. But anyway, I continue, model.
That was just about it. Yeah, we're not Mark Sargent or anything like
No,
that.
we're
That
not.
guy's a clown.
Yeah.
That guy's a shyster. He's in it for shekels. That's it.
Sure, but he's a great speaker, though. He is a great speaker. And that's, I think, why he's got so much, and of course, the just absolutely interest of it itself. Thanks, Wingnut. And dude, seriously, when we do the next one, please come on. We'd love to have you on and have some more, different opinions and stuff. And we'd like to see how you explain the various things like that as well. I think it'd be cool. Chemtrails, that's another TFT we could do. There's so many. And we're gonna have a conversation to discuss what we'll do next week. But I think we'll wait a couple of weeks and then we'll do part 2 on this. Topher says vote hashtag flat earth. There you go. Well, you know what you guys can do. You can go over to our Fanspeak page on Facebook, and you can put in there and tell us what you'd like us to cover on TFT, guys. Because we'll cover anything. We'll do anything. Just get in there and put in your ideas, and we'll do it happily. All right.
And Chester, that if anybody wants to go and actually watch the official released NASA interview with Robert Simmons on how he created the latest picture of Earth, his name's Robert Simmons, and there's an interview, an official released interview with him where he says that it's ribbons of data and it's done in Photoshop because it has to be. So by all means, don't believe me, but you go watch it. It's interesting.
The whole thing is interesting. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. We've been in here an hour and a half. Woof. What a great conversation. A lot of fun. We love you guys coming and being part of what we're doing every day. We're almost at 800. We might even gone over 800. But we're really happy how much we're growing and all the stuff we've been doing the past year. It's awesome. But Dinale, take us out of here.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this TFT. Join us tomorrow at 9 p.m. for Comics News Today, where we'll be talking about news, and we do have a guest. Chester, what's the name of our guest?
Oh, no, we have a guest tomorrow. We got a couple of guests coming up this week, actually.
Yeah.
Let me go over to the schedule real quick. Now, tomorrow, we have Ben from Outlaw Nights. Will be on our 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time show. So definitely check that out. We also have Cat and Mouse on Thursday at 8 p.m. Just before we do our Drone and Quarter Fan Edition. And of course, on the Wednesday, we have Preston Acevedo's Doc Salem. And that's going to be a lot of fun, too.
And your perception is your reality, so go give money to Cat's Ko-Fi.
That's right. That's right. Namaste.
Namaste.
All right. Later, guys.
Aloha.